As speaking of spreading compost, we're going to talk U.S. politics in just a few moments. Best-selling author, broadcaster, and the senior pastor from Hickory Hammock Baptist Church in Florida, Carl Gallups, is with us. We'll run a number of things up the flagpole, including the rise of Donald J. Trump. You cannot ignore this story. It is historical. Love him or hate him, or whether you're undecided, you don't want to miss this conversation. And we'll also place Trump within the context of biblical prophecy, because Pastor Gallups has written another book. This one, his latest, and I believe it's available in October, but you can do some pre-ordering now. We'll find out about that. But it promises to be another good one, and it's called "When the Lion Roars: Understanding the Implications of Ancient Prophecies for Our Time." How does Donald Trump, Freudian slip? No. Donald J. Trump, how does he fit into that context, biblical prophecy? Ian Robertson is on the other side of the glass tonight, twisting the dials and knobs. Just a reminder, next Saturday, that's May the 21st, I'll be hosting an event at the University of Toronto, Missing 411 Canada. Author David Paulides will be presenting his compelling and most disturbing research. Albert calls it just plain creepy. He's not sure he's going to go, right, Albert? He's actually scared. I don't know if you followed David Paulides. He's been on Coast to Coast many times, and he's written a series of books. This is number 5 on this whole Missing 411 series, people that go missing in the national parks across North America. And we're not talking about, well, someone fell down a sinkhole, or they just got lost in the woods and they were never found. They perished, and maybe, their remains were scattered by animals or something. No, we are talking about a different kettle of fish entirely. These are very strange disappearances. You don't want to miss this event, Saturday, May 21st, and I'll be emceeing and presenting or introducing David, but this is a conspiracy culture presentation. Our dear friends Patrick and Kadena, and you can find out more. Just go to conspiracyculture.com. And you can order tickets right there online and follow and get all the information, conspiracyculture.com. I also want to mention, for those inclined, there is on that same date, Saturday, May the 21st, there's this, I don't know how extensive it is. It's throughout North America, I think, anyway, but there'll be one here in Toronto, the March Against Monsanto. But they're also marching against Dow and DuPont and others. This is all about, preserving the safety of our food supply and so forth. Very concerned about genetically modified organisms. So the March Against Monsanto happening in Toronto, Saturday, May 21st. And if you want to check out, you could do the march, and then you can stop by the U of T after you've marched and sit down and listen to David Paulides. Incidentally, you can get more information on the march. Go to www.march-against-monsanto.com. www.march-against-monsanto.com. All right. The Never Trump crowd are slowly coming around to the idea, being dragged and kicking and screaming nonetheless, but they're coming around finally. They're realizing that Donald J. Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. And barring some indictment, which is very possible, or coughing fit, or other scandal, Donald will face off against the presumptive Democrat nominee, which is Hillary Clinton, of course. And again, love him or hate him, I believe we have to also come to grips with the fact that Donald Trump has a very real shot, despite what all the talking heads and the pundits are saying. Remember Carter versus Reagan in 1980. Carter was way ahead in the polls. Reagan was dismissed as an outsider. And I believe he carried 49 out of 50 states. And that's how that race is won. It's state by state. You have to remember that. It's about the Electoral College, state by state. So Trump has a genuine shot at becoming the next POTUS and commander-in-chief. So we are going to talk about the rise of Trump and how he may just fit into biblical prophecy. Carl Gallups is the longtime senior pastor of Hickory Hammock Baptist Church in Florida. He's the author of a number of best-selling books, including Magic Man in the Sky. He's a conference leader, evangelist, Christian media icon, former law enforcement official, one of the founders of video teaching material to the world-famous ppsimmons YouTube ministry and a biblical apologetics channel. He's a graduate of Florida State University and the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. His latest book is entitled When the Lion Roars, Understanding the Implications of Ancient Prophecies for Our Time. Carl, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. It's good to see you again, my friend. I miss not being. I think it was about a year ago I was in Toronto with you.
Let's see. It was not that long ago. It was I think it was October, wasn't it? No. You're right. No.
Richard, I don't know.
It's all a blur.
We need to do it again. Let me just say that.
Fair, you're right. 6 months, a year, who's counting?
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, it's been a while, and it's just great to see your face, to see you in studio, and I'm honored to be here with you and your audience tonight. Thank you for having me.
Now, When the Lion Roars, Understanding the Implications of Ancient Prophecies for Our Time, it's not out until October, so otherwise I'd hold up a copy in front of the webcam, but you're accepting pre-orders for that?
Well, you know, I'm a little surprised that you're even mentioning this tonight because I'm really not at liberty from my publishers to talk about it.
Oh, my apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I don't suppose you knew that, and I didn't know that you had access to all of that.
Well, it's on your website, Carl.
On my website?
Well, when you go to About Carl Gallups on your website, it takes you to your...
it's probably on Amazon.
It is.
Yeah. And that's okay. No, I'm not chastising you, my friend. I'm just...
You better not be. You better not be.
I certainly am not. I know I'm aware that the publishers have put it on... I think Amazon and Books A Million and those places. So I know that it's there, but I'm really not supposed to get into great detail about talking about it until it gets a little closer to release, and you understand that.
Enough said.
But listen, it's on the internet, so you've given the title, and that's correct. And I do think I saw the other day that the digital format is available for pre-order.
Yes.
The actual book format won't be available for a couple of more months for pre-order.
There you go. So the digital, you can pre-order that.
I think that's correct.
Excellent. And then in the meantime, of course, we have Be Thou Prepared, Equipping the Church for Persecution in the Times of Trouble.
Yeah.
The Rabbi Who Found Messiah, which continues to cause quite a commotion around the world.
Final warning as well.
Final warning,
we talked about that one,
Final warning. All right, well, let's talk Trump here for a while.
Okay.
My gosh, as I say, love him or hate him, you cannot deny this man has changed politics in the United States perhaps forever, and I think the change that is happening, again, separating the man from the change, is a positive, a tremendous positive. He has managed to break the yoke of what I call the equestrian class, which has a hold on both parties. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I couldn't have said it any better. I didn't know that's exactly what you were going to say, but if I were going to try to put it in eloquent terms, I would say exactly what you just said. He is a phenomenon, and separating the man from the phenomena. And the reason we say that, or at least the reason I'm saying that, and I suspect it's the same reason you're saying it, because I don't think you or I, neither one of us, are claiming that he's some kind of Superman or superhero, or that he's the best thing that's ever happened, or that he is a stellar guy in every aspect of his life. But then who is? You know, what candidate has ever been? But the point that you're making so eloquently is that what a phenomena. This has changed. You're right. It has changed politics in America forever, and I think some of the reasons are it has brought. Well, listen, it has exposed what people like you and I have been called conspiracy theorists about for years, but it has exposed it as absolute fact. We now have the establishment on both sides of the aisle in the United States proclaiming publicly early on in the Trump phenomena, when there was this great panic that this guy who was supposed to just be a joke, he was supposed to be a clown, everybody was making fun of him, but he soundly defeated, 17 people in the Republican field?
Yes, correct.
And rose to the top, and not only rose to the top, but rose to the top with this huge majority among the Republicans and the Electoral College and the raw millions of people voting for him. So this meteoric rise panicked the establishment on both sides of the aisle. And what I have been saying for years, and I suspect you probably have suspected the same thing, if not have said it, and that is that through the decades, more and more Americans had come to believe that there really wasn't a dime's worth of difference between the establishment Republicans and the establishment Democrats. In fact, I've had several guests on my program say, people who are in the Beltline loop, saying that, presidents in the United States are not really elected, they are selected.
Correct.
And I have, and people have been saying that, and I've been trying to help people understand the truth behind that. And of course, I was called a conspiracy theorist and a tinfoil hat and a sensationalist, and I was just trying to upset people. But now, because of the Donald Trump phenomena, America has heard with their own ears the establishment elite, the party elite, declaring in front of the cameras with arrogance, with anger, just a few months ago, that we don't care what the votes are, we select the candidates. So that really caught the attention of a lot of Americans.
That was certainly brought home during the New Hampshire primary when Bernie Sanders, although he won in terms of the popular vote, he actually lost because of this phenomenon known as superdelegates. So Hillary Clinton won more delegates from New Hampshire. That's how she's being catapulted to the position of the presumptive nominee for the Democrats,
exactly,
based on the superdelegates, because Bernie has won something like 21 primaries, and then we had the head of the DNC, Wasserman, actually go on mainstream media and declare superdelegates are designed to prevent a populist uprising from electing someone like Bernie Sanders, so that basically she was saying so that the elites can maintain control over the selection process. We had someone admitting that.
Yes.
Very telling. All right, we'll take a time out. Carl Gallups stays with us. We'll talk about the rise of Trump right here on The Conspiracy Show. Do not go away.
The truth is not out there. It's right here. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett.
Welcome back. Carl Gallups is with us, the author of Be Thou Prepared, The Rabbi Who Found Messiah, Final Warning, The Magic Man in the Sky, long-time senior pastor at the Hickory Hammock Baptist Church in Florida. And we are talking about the rise of Trump. I don't even think we can call it the Republican Party anymore. It's the Trump Party. And because so many of his positions, they are not... some might call him kind of a Rockefeller East Coast Republican because he's somewhat socially liberal. He's very socially liberal, actually. And then he's not a free trader, so he's not against, or he's against a lot of these foreign entanglements and things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership and even the North American Free Trade, which means he's going to attract a lot of sort of the old, the Reagan Democrats, so this is going to be very interesting. But would you concur that the Republican Party, the Bush Republican Party, the Mitt Romney Republican Party, it's dead and gone. It's now the Trump Party. Yeah.
No, I would concur. I mean, that's where we are in American history right now, for better or for worse. But for those of us, and of course I'm a Christian and I'm a pastor and I come from a biblical worldview, so therefore I'm pretty conservative socially, etc. And for those of us that are social conservatives, listen, here's the choice we're faced with. Short of as you said earlier, something happening like an indictment or something along those lines, God forbid anything happening to any of the candidates. 6 months from now, that's still a long time, but short of anything strange happening, it's going to be between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Now, people like myself in the United States, and there are millions of us, who are active voters. We engage the system. We speak. We vote. We get involved. For people like us, this go-round, Donald Trump is our only answer. He's not the perfect candidate for those of us that are staunchly conservative. He certainly leaves a lot to be desired in some of the social areas, as you said. But we are extremely concerned with the 8 years that we've had under Obama and some of the absolutely ludicrous, ridiculous social experimentation that is being leveled upon our culture. The latest, I'm sure you guys have heard about the decree coming out of Washington commanding all public schools to open restrooms in the public school with our children to transgenders. And not only that, but to the locker rooms and showers. A lot of people don't know that, but that was in the decree as well. And that the school officials are not allowed to ask any questions, to ask for any identification. Just if some man says, I feel like a woman today, he can go into a restroom in a public school with little girls, for example. These kinds of things are just absolutely offending the sensibility of the vast majority of America in huge ways.
Well, you take a transgendered people out of the equation, it gives license to someone who's not transgendered to use that as cover to slip into a restroom. And we had a recent incident. It was published on WorldNet Daily, the story of a man who went into a restroom. I believe it was in a restaurant, and they found him choking an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
This is the issue.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It defies sensibility because there are people. I mean, it's not the majority of our population, thank God, but there are people who will use and abuse this beyond the stretch of our imagination. And it just goes beyond sensibility. So the point being, I mean, we can talk about all this if you'd like as well. I was using it as an illustration of just one of the examples of why millions of us out here in the heartland of the United States of America are saying, look, if we have to choose between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, then Donald Trump is the no-brainer, because Hillary Clinton she falls in the Obama camp. In fact, some people have said she may wind up being Obama on steroids, because she is in that same ultra-left liberal wing and has been for all of her life. And so Donald Trump, even though he is socially liberal in some areas, he still is speaking to the heart of America. And I think this is why he's become such a phenomenon. He says, look, I want to guard our borders. I want to protect our culture. I'm going to build the wall. I know that offends some people, but look, the Pope who's telling us you shouldn't build a wall. Well, the Vatican has one of the largest walls around its borders than any nation state in the world. They have some of the toughest border restrictions and immigration restrictions. The hypocrisy of this just stinks to high heaven. The United States of America can't defend its borders. We can't stop illegals from flooding over by the millions. Well, of course, that defies sensibility. And Donald Trump is speaking to that. He's saying, look, I will stop this insanity. On top of that, Richard, as you know, ISIS is bragging daily of what it's doing in Europe and what it is doing in the United States, using these border crises as a Trojan horse for getting its operatives in here. Our own FBI has already published reports saying that they are tracking ISIS cells in all 50 states in the United States of America. That's insanity. We're relocating refugees, Muslim immigrants and refugees, all over our nation in pockets by the tens of thousands from the Middle East under this Obama regime. Hillary Clinton basically promises to continue that and more.
One of the things that I find somewhat ironic is, and for those who found his call for a temporary ban on Muslim immigration, for those non-American Muslims into the country, just a temporary until we can figure out how we can vet these people. People forget that Jimmy Carter, and he was about as left-wing a president as you could get, in 1979 banned Iranians from coming into the United States. Of course, this in the aftermath of the hostage situation.
Right.
So, I mean, there is precedent for this.
Yes, not only did he ban them, Richard, but he shipped thousands of them out of here. During that Iranian hostage crisis, banned Muslims from entering the country. This was, one of the most left-wing liberal Democrat presidents we've had in my lifetime up until Barack Obama. So, you're absolutely right. And a Canadian, more about American history than a lot of Americans seem to know. And so people are castigating Donald Trump for saying what to me and to many millions, obviously, makes perfect common sense, and that is we don't hate Muslims. We don't hate immigrants. America was built on immigration, legal immigration. But we do not want our borders to be porous and open and lawless, because the lawless people will take advantage of it. The terrorists, our enemies. I mean, what nation in its right mind? A nation without borders is no nation at all. And, of course, there are the globalists who desire to do that to the United States of America. And I'm telling you, if it happens to the United States of America, Canada is in dire straits as well, and you know that.
Certainly.
Canada and the United States, we are cousins, we are sisters, if you will, in this. We are brothers, however you want to couch the terms. We are dependent upon one another.
Well, a wall isn't going to be 100% effective, obviously. They're discovering tunnels all the time,
sure,
from all the way up into San Diego and so forth. But one of the things that it will also do is, again, it's not the cure-all, but it is going to seriously stem the flow of illegal drugs into the United States from Central America and Mexico. And for someone who's been to places like New Hampshire, and is aware of the heroin epidemic in beautiful, picturesque, pastoral New Hampshire, it is it's out of control, heroin addiction.
Yeah.
And so that is, another possible benefit of the wall. And maybe Trump needs to sort of focus. Well, he has been hammering away at that point as well, but it's largely ignored. The other moment I thought Trump, maybe the one moment when he was absolutely presidential, and people are being, even his own daughter saying, you've got to be more presidential. And that was when he delivered, and it was an actual prepared speech on his sort of vision of American foreign policy moving forward. I don't know if you saw that speech, but here's where he is really distancing himself from Hillary. Hillary, yes, she's very socially liberal, left of center on many issues, but when it comes to foreign policy, she is in lockstep, as is Obama, with the Bush and the Clinton regimes prior. They are two heads of the war party. And Trump is insisting a totally new direction, not isolationist, but more non-interventionist, taking the United States back to a time before the Second World War. No more, he said, are we going to be in the nation-building business. And to me, this is such a breath of fresh air. We've never had a Democrat or a Republican nominee talking like this. And again, this is not a Republican speaking. This is the head of the Trump party.
Yes. No, I agree. And as you have so aptly noted in the beginning of this time tonight, that this is resonating. It's resonating from coast to coast. It's resonating through the American heartland. Many, many millions of people are coming on board that no one expected to. I mean, there are Democrats that are saying, look, we're voting for Trump. It's invigorated the Republican Party again. Surely there are people that are concerned, hard-line conservative, hard-line evangelicals who are just saying, I just can't vote for either one of these people. You've got that. But what you have is an absolute phenomena, as you said, that's changing American politics probably forever, because this guy is out of the beltway. He is out of the establishment. That's why the establishment hates him so badly. By the way, here in a few moments, I have a perfect, I think, illustration of why there's that vitriolic hatred for Donald Trump from the establishment. But let me just say, just think about what Donald Trump is saying. Now, again, I'm going to his rhetoric. I'm separating that from the man and any kind of faults he may have. And I'm just saying, listen to his platform. I want to listen to his motto. I want to make America great again. I'm going to tell you, that resonates. For the last 8 years, much of the heartland of America feels like America has, Obama promised. He said, I'm going to fundamentally transform America. Well, he's kept that promise. You know, a lot of people accuse Obama of being this horrific liar. Well, here is one area where he has stuck by his guns, told the truth. He has fundamentally transformed America. And most people do not feel like it has been for the good. So along comes Donald Trump, Richard, and he says, we're going to make America great again. You know, whatever that means, but it's going to be great again. Americans want to hear that. The second thing he says, I'm going to build a wall, and I'm going to make Mexico pay for it, one of the worst offenders to this. And we're going to get a grip on legal, sane immigration. Then he says, I'm going to bring America's corporations back. I'm going to re-strengthen the military again. We're going to strengthen the economy. And he tells us how and how he plans on doing it. And then he comes up with this foreign policy that you were referring to. People, I'm telling you, Richard, this is resonating. And
it's also very dangerous.
Do what?
It's also very dangerous what he's putting out there. I mean, God forbid anything were to happen to him or Hillary, as you say, but I fear for Donald Trump, particularly when it comes to foreign policy, because again, Obama, Clinton, Bush, it's a continuum. And the United States system is based on continuity. That's what it's designed to preserve, continuity, especially in foreign policy. Yeah. And when when Trump called them out on, the fact that the foreign policy in the Middle East is a complete disaster almost by design, he hinted at it. They couldn't have planned it better had they tried, and maybe they did, right, to totally destabilize the Middle East.
Right.
He nailed them on that, both parties.
Right, he did. And there are many of us who believe that it probably was by design, which is another reason why so many people are wanting to get on the Trump bandwagon. Even Democrats, Richard, even Democrats.
All right, when we come back, let's look into Scripture and see, is there anything in there that might point to this moment in history and the rise of Donald J. Trump? Could there be something, for example, in Final Warning, the 7 trumpets? Trumpets? See where I'm going? All right. Back with more of my conversation with Carl Gallups. The website, carlgallups.com, Gallups, Carl, C-A-R-L, Gallups.com. Stay with us right here. Don't go away.
Keeping an eye on the New World Order. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett.
The rise of Donald J. Trump. How to explain this phenomenon? I would point to Newton's third law, an equal and opposite reaction. And what is the equal and opposite reaction? What is it reacting to, this phenomenon? Well, it is reacting to decades of things like political correctness. And we had a parallel here in this fair city with our mayor, our late mayor, Rob Ford, who was even rougher around the edges than Donald Trump, if that's possible, but he certainly was, and had the same kind of populist appeal that cut across the political spectrum. It was no longer about right and left and conservative and liberal. He was a deeply flawed individual, but he spoke in such, plain language of the street, and this had a tremendous appeal. And the same thing is happening with Trump. And again, this brash, at times vulgar presentation is an equal and opposite reaction to decades of stifling, odious political correctness. I have witnessed it on college campuses, university campuses. It's quite frightening. What is happening, the old saying, the slave becomes the tyrant. Well, there obviously was a time when particular people who had a particular viewpoint were perhaps maligned and abused by the other side, and now I guess some might say, well, turnabout is fair play, but it's come back in 10 times as bad. This is like the new McCarthy era, but this time it's imagine a left-wing liberal legion of Roy Cohns and Senator Joe McCarthy. That's what we have running amok now in all of our institutions. And as I say, Donald Trump, I think this in part explains the phenomenon. He is the manifestation of Newton's third law. All right, Carl Gallups is with us, carlgallups.com. And I wanted to ask you, longtime senior pastor, Hickory Hammock Baptist Church, Is any of this Trump phenomena to be found in Scripture?
Well, listen, let me answer it like this, Richard. And before we went to break, you said something about, the name Trump, and I've written a book called Final Warning, Understanding the Trumpet Days of Revelation, and you laughed and said, see where I'm going with that? See? Well, it's funny. No, I don't make a connection to his last name, to the trumpet the trumpet judgments, if you will, or the trumpet prophecies in the book of Revelation. But it's funny because, if you get on Facebook, you get on Twitter, you get on social media, and you see people kind of making fun of that, making light of that, saying, well, maybe he's the last Trump. In other words, what they're saying is maybe he is America's last chance. Maybe he's America's last warning from God. Not that God would use Donald Trump to be the savior of America. I don't think anybody thinks that. But it's like, look, you've got a choice here. Trump kind of represents nationalism, making America great again. Hillary represents Obama, Clinton, Bush, globalism, and this one world order-ish kind of thing. And Trump kind of represents, not perfectly, but in a lot of the things he says, he represents a return to a respect for our heritage and our foundation, our Judeo-Christian foundation, and he represents a return to some sort of maybe social sanity, some return to some sort of respect for Israel, whereas Hillary represents the exact opposite of that. So if those things are true, then people are saying, this may be, in our lifetime and perhaps forever, America's last chance. Again, not that I don't think anybody, I know I'm not, looking at Donald Trump as the great savior of America, but just looking at it, kind of prophetically. Now, my next book coming out, which I'm not at liberal to speak a lot about, but it's entitled it's titled "When the Lion Roars." That comes from Amos chapter 3, verse 7 and 8. It's a prophecy in the Old Testament that basically says, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't have it in front of me, but it basically says, look, when the trumpet blows in the city, has not God sounded the alarm? When the lion roars, who can help but prophesy? And, of course, the lion being the voice of God. And, of course, the Lion of Judah, Jesus Christ himself, the ultimate fulfillment of the Word of God. So the context of that verse and the title of the book is, look, the lion is roaring. And I start in that book with when Israel returned in 1948. There is no prophetic or biblical doubt about it. That's when the clock of prophecy started ticking. And I take it from there and come all the way up to where we are now. Yes, even in this election season. And I bring out the astounding, and this is as far as I can go with my description of it tonight. I'm so sorry, Richard, but I bring out astounding prophetic fulfillments that have happened since the return of Israel, but particularly that have happened just in the last 5, 10, 15 years at the most, that are in the Scriptures that speak exactly to the days in which we're living. Now, later on I can come on your show and we can go through those things specifically, but the point is, I believe, and many, many millions of Americans and American Christians believe, that we're living in extremely prophetic times, Richard. Now, how Donald Trump, the man, may or may not tie into that, I don't know. But I do know one thing. He has awakened America to a lot of things. As I said in the beginning of the show, first of all, he has shown just his presence and his meteoric rise and the reaction of the establishment elite to him. He has shown what many, many millions of Americans had suspected for decades. Now we heard the elite tell us, you don't pick the presidents, we do. We don't care what your votes are. And I'm telling you what, that brought down a firestorm upon the establishment elite. It freaked them out. And they've pretty much had to back up and zip their lips. They've pretty much been acquiescing to the firestorm that they brought down when they just arrogantly and boldly and angrily came forward and basically said, we don't want Donald Trump. We don't care who you want. We're going to maintain the status quo.
Well, we'll take a time out, Carl, when we come back. I want to pursue that idea, though, about, God choosing leaders.
Yes.
And who he chooses sometimes. Look at David, King David.
Yes.
A murderer, adulterer, a deeply flawed individual. But sometimes, God chooses people like that. Mm-hmm. Why not Donald J. Trump? As flawed as he is, we'll discuss when we come back. Carl Gallups, my guest. Be thou prepared, the rabbi who found Messiah, final warning. Back with more.
Where there's smoke, there's The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett.
All right, welcome back. The rise of Trump. That is the topic du jour. And Carl Gallups is with us, senior pastor, Hickory Hammock Baptist Church in Florida, the author of a number of bestsellers, including Final Warning and Be Thou Prepared, the rabbi who found Messiah. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Doesn't that tell us that God ultimately chooses who our leaders will be?
Yeah, Richard, that's an excellent question. It's been debated by theologians for thousands of years. I think the answer to it is yes and no. And I'm not walking the fence, I promise you. I want to give you a solid theological answer to that. We have to be very careful if we proclaim that the Scriptures proclaim in context that God just chooses who he wants. If that's the case, then why do we do anything? Why are we held accountable for our choices? Why should we even get involved? Why does Jesus command us to be the salt and the light and then chastises us, telling us if the salt loses its saltiness, then it'll just be trampled underfoot and it's worthless? So we're commanded in the Scriptures to be involved. The book of James tells us, look, faith without works is dead. Show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. So here we are. When that scripture was written in Romans chapter 13 is the one you quoted, and then there's a sister verse to it, I think in 1 Peter, I can't remember. But anyway, when those passages were written, they were written under the Roman Empire. The early Christians had no opportunity to be engaged in the system. They couldn't vote. They couldn't run for office. They were under the auspices or the direction and the authority of the Caesars and the Roman Senate and the powers that be, and particularly those who were a part of the conquered people in the Roman Empire. So the point of that scripture, the context of that scripture is, look, ultimately God's got this. Yes, ultimately, Richard, that's why I said yes and no. Ultimately, he is sovereign. He uses who he chooses, and he uses them how he wishes. He can use a Pharaoh who he may or may not have actually put in place, and he can use King Nebuchadnezzar to proclaim his glory, as he did. Can he appoint? Yes, in the nation of Israel, did he speak to the heart of the priest Samuel and say, David is the one I have chosen? Yes, he did. The people chose Saul. So you've got, the pendulum swings. We have to be very careful to say, well, God's just going to put the person in, he wants. So therefore, the people of God, Christians, etc., in America, you don't even have to go to the polls to vote. Well, that's what gave us 2 terms of Barack Obama, because tens of millions of Christians admitted that they were so distraught over the whole political affairs of those days that they didn't even bother to register to vote. And of the tens of millions who did register to vote, less than 50% of them actually went to the polls. And of course, then what happened is the leftist agenda, those people did go out to the polls, and they overwhelmed what could have been perhaps a completely different turn of events. And so that's why we are where we are now, with a Supreme Court ruling, gay marriage, the transgender bathroom issues, the targeting of Christians and Christian business people and Christian pastors by a radical runaway homosexual movement in America. I mean, all of that came out of, I believe, tens of millions of Christians disengaging from the system. So here we are in America now, several thousand years after those scriptures written. Don't you know when Paul wrote Romans 13, for example, he would have given his right arm to have the freedom that we have in America to be involved, to get involved, to be engaged, to speak to the government, to redress the government, to run for office, to vote for people who you think might best represent protection for the Christian way of life and the history and heritage of our nation. Wonder what the early Christians living in the Roman Empire would think of tens of millions of American Christians saying, you know what, we're just going to opt out because, God chooses whoever he wants anyway. So I think there's a real balance to the context of that. But you're right, though, Richard, and that is God is sovereign, and he can certainly use a Donald Trump who is less than a perfect, stellar guy. But again, when I say that, I'm not really trashing the man. I mean, I don't want to sit in judgment of it. Who is perfect? I mean, was Bill Clinton? He sang in the choir at Little Rock, Arkansas Emmanuel Church. Was Jimmy Carter perfect? He taught Sunday school at Plains, Georgia Baptist Church. Two of the most liberal presidents we've had. One of them turned out to be very godless and a sexual deviant in the White House. So, I mean, Ronald Reagan, he turned out to be a pretty godly fellow used by God, but he admitted in the New York Times, he and his wife admitted they regularly used astrology charts to determine their daily schedules. I mean, we could go on and on with this. The point is, can God use a Donald Trump for such a time as this? Yes, he can, and millions of Americans believe that he will. And so we shall see.
All right, let's grab a quick call here. We have Sean, who's here in Toronto. Sean, welcome to the Conspiracy Show. Go ahead.
Oh, hello, Pastor Gallups. I wonder what you make of this most recent development where the billionaire Sheldon Adelson is now having meetings with Trump and is tentatively pledging to contribute at least $100 million to his campaign now that we're entering the presidential campaign proper just in the months to come. Now, this would definitely undercut any claims to independence that Trump has had so far, and that has endeared him to a lot of people. Even not that long ago, maybe 4 months or so ago, during the earliest primaries, Trump was ridiculing people such as Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, saying that Adelson would contribute a great deal of money to their campaigns. They were no better. He was just simply fashioning them to be his puppets.
That's an excellent point. So, Carl, should Trump turn down this money? I mean, he can't turn down the endorsement. An endorsement is one thing, but the money, and Trump clearly, he doesn't need it. He has spent very little money. This is entirely a television campaign. He has no infrastructure on the ground. He doesn't need it. That's the other thing that's revolutionary about this. But should he turn down that contribution?
He also has a rather pernicious ideology. He has, for quite a long time now, been financing various people in the Senate and Congress.
Okay, I got the point. Let Carl respond here if we could, Sean. Let me get Carl's take on it. Thank you for the call. No worries, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sean, thank you so much for listening tonight, and I'm honored that you called in, and thank you for asking me that question. Very astute observation, Sean. And it's raised a lot of eyebrows. I can tell you that as an American down here, listening to Americans talk about this and watching the news. I'm following this very closely. Richard, you asked, should he turn it down? Well, if Donald Trump's listening tonight and if he wants to use me as his campaign manager in this or advisor, yes, he should turn it down. I mean, as you said, he can't turn down you can't stop somebody from endorsing you, but you're right. One of the hallmarks, one of the foundation planks of his popularity has been, look, I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not taking big money, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from anybody. I'm a billionaire. I can handle this. I want the heartland. If you want to give $5, $10, $15, $20, $100, $500, that's fine. But I don't need the $10 million or the $100 million donations. I don't need this. I don't want to be connected like that. That is what has endeared him, as you said, Richard. So this is going to be interesting to watch this unfold. You're right. He ridiculed Rubio and Cruz for aligning or attempting to align with this guy and people like him. And now the headlines are carrying that Donald Trump may be in the throes of doing the same thing. Now, we also have to take into consideration, Richard, that, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes here. I mean, this could be a whole attempt to set Trump up for people pulling away from him, just setting him up for a fall. I don't know that, and I'm just, listen, I've been down the road enough now. I've been through enough presidential elections. I've been immersed in this one, watching all the little fine-tuning and dynamics of it. And I'm telling you, I smell a rat here, Richard, and I don't know if the rat is in the Trump campaign or if it's in the camp of those looking to undermine him.
You're right. It could be entrapment.
Yes.
Someone from the establishment
Yes.
trying to lure Trump inside,
Yes.
So they can control him.
Yes, which is why I say he shouldn't take it. He doesn't need to. He's built his campaign on the fact that he wouldn't or hasn't. And I would say at this point, don't step into that trap. Now, there may be a whole lot about this that I don't know, and I could be dead wrong in my assessment, but I'm answering Sean's question as he asks it tonight, and that would be my advice to Trump tonight.
I would agree. I mean, for those that have supported Trump because that he is refusing to take money from the various lobby groups, if he were to come out publicly and state on CNN or Fox when he's on Sean Hannity, and say, thank you very much for the endorsement, but I will not accept a dime.
Right.
There's another 5 points uptick in the polls,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say, at least.
Oh,
But
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Speaking of political contributions, I mean, we just have a minute or two here, but nobody in the mainstream media, surprise, surprise, talking about reports that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton accepted $100 million in contributions from the various Gulf sheiks.
Yeah.
To me, if this is, I mean, what do you hear? What do you know? Is there any credence to the story?
Yeah. Well, listen. There's got to be credence to it, whether or not the actual figure is correct, because it is a long established and well-known fact that the Clintons and the Bushes are deeply tied to Saudi money and to Saudi powers. They're deeply tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. We know that Abedin, her chief of staff, has deep ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and to Saudi Arabia and to Saudi oil. And so this is not shocking to most Americans. It is, as you said, shocking, surprise, surprise, that the mainstream media makes very little of it, while at the same time they want to herald the fact that Donald Trump might be getting ready to take what could be deemed a legitimate donation of about the same amount from someone else. But this is the stuff. This is the stuff, Richard, that has so many millions of people on both sides of the aisle turning to a Donald Trump in this day and time. And that's why I'm saying I'm kind of holding my breath on this latest thing that Sean called about, because this is a strange turn of events. It's going to be interesting. Now, Donald Trump is brilliant businessman. This is my conspiracy. I just thought of it a few moments ago. But what if Donald Trump has set all of this up so he can turn him down and come out like a knight in shining armor and get 5-point boost in the ratings?
Well, he is quite a chess player. There's no question about that.
Yes.
Carl, it is going to be a wild ride. It's, if nothing else, I can't vote, obviously, in your election, but it's a great spectator sport. Thank you so much, my friend.
Richard, thank you. God bless you. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for your great listeners as well. Enjoyed it.
My pleasure. CarlGallups.com.